Welcome to part 4 of the Simplicity's S9470 SewAlong. I encourage you to watch the tutorials listed on the following slides prior to starting this SewAlong to either refresh your memory or to learn the sewing skill mentioned in order to complete this SewAlong. Here's what we'll be covering in today's video. Assembling and installing the neckline facing, understitching, and hemming. Lastly, if you're new to sewing or you just need a refresher, check out my free Sewing Basics video series by clicking the link at the top of the screen. If you already know how to do my sew-alongs and videos, and if you'll be kind enough to watch at least one ad, should it appear, which enables me to keep bringing you free content, feel free to skip ahead to go straight to the pattern spotlight. Skip ahead to the 3-minute 59-second mark. Here's a little bit about how I do my Sew With Me sew-alongs.
Techniques, I'm going to put it on the website. And I will reference it in the sew-along itself. So for example, we're working on a pair of pants that has a fly front. So when we get to that portion in the sew-along, I'll do a little bit of it, in instructions in the sew-along itself, but then I'm going to refer you over to the website to go ahead and look at that video, that particular video, look it over, study it, do your own sample if you want, because I'm big on that technique binder. So go ahead and and do that. And then once you get a good hang of what that technique is, then come back onto the sew-along itself and do that particular technique with the sew-along. So that way we both kind of benefit. You still get the instruction of the actual sew-along, step by step of how to do a particular thing. But it's less editing on my part because, like I said, I'll mention it in the sew-along itself, but then I'll refer you over to the website to actually find that particular technique and go ahead, review it, look at it. And then once you master it or enough to where even you sew along, at the same time and install it in that particular sew-along that you're doing at that time. So hopefully that will be okay for you, because I think I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone for watching my videos. I love to upload the videos. I love to share my knowledge. And I'm pretty sure that you guys love to get free content. So in order for me to keep uploading free content, I just need you to do some simple things for me, some very simple things. The first thing is just to hit the subscribe button. So just make sure that you hit that. So you're subscribed to my channel, hit the notification bell so when I upload a new video, you don't miss out and you get to see it. And then also, if there's an ad on my videos, they're typically anywhere from 10 seconds to maybe up to 2 minutes. Just go ahead and either watch it or do something else you want to do in that particular time that ad is running. So use the restroom, go get something to drink or something like that. Because that way, if you let that ad run, I benefit from YouTube, and that way I can still keep creating content and uploading it for free. Okay. Enough of that boring stuff. Back to the sew-along. Please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And also hit the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads. Thanks again, and keep on watching. All right, so welcome to part 4. You're going to need pieces 3 and 4. And basically we're just assembling the facing pieces, okay, which is 13. So we're going to assemble them at the side seams. All right, so 3. And make sure to interface your pieces as well. All right, so 3 is the longer one, right side. So you just want to match up your notches. Okay.
So once you do that, you're just gonna sew at your side seam at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, or me, I'll do it at a 1/2 inch. Okay, so back from the sewing machine, and as you see, I joined the sides at the side seam, and I finished the side seam by serging and the bottom edge by serging. So what you're going to do now is join the facing to your bodice piece, and you're basically going to match up their center fronts. So the center front of your bodice to the center front of your facing piece here. Match up your side seams, okay? And I already did this side. So let's move into this side. Now when you get here, remember your invisible zipper should look like this, okay? So what you're gonna do is open it out, all right, like that. So the teeth are facing the garment, okay? So you basically, it was like this. And all you're gonna do is open it out like that. So you can see the raw edge of your center back, all right? And the teeth of your zipper is facing toward your garment. You're gonna take your facing and put it to the end, so raw edges together. Okay. And you may have to stretch a little bit like that. So now everything is flush, as you can see. So I'm going to pin in the middle. And then pin in between. So. And you do have a notch there. So make sure that notch lines up. So at this point, what you're going to do is take to your sewing machine and sew at 5/8 seam allowance all the way around, okay? Okay, so back from the sewing machine, and I sewed around the neckline, attaching the facing to the bodice. Okay, so next what we're going to do is clip the corners, okay? Oh, I'm sorry, clip into your curves. And that just helps the facing lie flat once you turn it to the inside. Now this is mostly straight, this here, so you can kind of start, you know, around here, definitely around the front. All the front you want to clip into this back, you know, a little bit into the back. Okay, just when you are cutting, just make sure you're not cutting the bodice. Okay, so just gonna start cutting. You see, I'm cutting, and you cut up to the stitches, but not through it. And you know, this is about 1 inch apart, but you could do a 1/2 inch as well. Now some people trim this before they clip it and before they understitch it. I don't see how they do that. It's just, to me, it's easier to clip it while you still have a lot of seam allowance. Versus the other way around. And then you can trim the excess off once you understitch it. But you do have to clip it before you understitch it. But I just choose to clip it when I have a good amount of seam allowance, because that allows me to understitch it having that good amount of seam allowance. And basically where that notch is, I guess you can clip up to where that notch is on both sides.
And I basically did. Alrighty, so clip that. And so all that does is when you open it like that, you know, to go around that curves, it opens to allow the fabric to lay flat. I don't know if you see that. So before is basically closed, and as it goes around the curve, you see how that opens. Okay, so that's what that's doing. So now we're going to go back to the sewing machine and we're going to understitch. Okay, so understitching is having that seam allowance. You're going to have the seam allowance and the facing away from the garment. So you're going to press it. You should press it first, okay? And so now it's going to be away from the garment. And so now the seam that we seem to stitch it together, the two together, now you're going to stitch close to, which is an edge stitch, to that seam, but you're going to sew on the facing itself. Okay, so you're going to sew, here's the seam. That's the seam, but you're going to sew on the facing, catching your seam allowance. Catching that seam allowance, okay? So you got to make sure that the seam allowance is right under the facing. So go ahead and stitch that, and don't start at the very beginning, okay? Start like, I would say about an inch, inch and a half away here, okay? So start here, because if you start here in the beginning, that'll affect when we go to close out for a clean finish for our zipper part. So that's why we don't start at the beginning, but start rather an inch and a half to 2 inches away from that raw edge. So go ahead and do your understitching all the way around and come back. Back from the sewing machine. So I have done my understitching. Try to find a little bit of white so you can see. So this is the facing, this is the facing, and as you see, I edge stitch close to the seam on the facing, catching the seam allowance, okay? So now we can, or I trim the seam allowance down by half. So at this point, you know, I just flip it over, reveal the seam allowance, okay? And I'll take it and I'll just trim it down by half, like so. And I just think that's a better method than trimming it before and then trying to use that little bit of space that you had in order to, you know, people do it all the time, but I just find this is a easier method to do this. All right, so again, see, just trim down by half. Now you're going to your iron, okay? And you're going to give this a nice iron. You're just going to make sure that this rolls back to the inside, like so. You want this understitch to be on the inside, and you want to be able to see a little bit of the front on this inside, okay? And that's what gives you that clean finish on the outside, okay? So once you do all that and press all the way around, okay? So make sure that all that is laying flat. So now you want a clean finish on your zipper side, okay? So your zipper should be, again, flipped out as usual right now. So you should be looking at the raw edge, right? You're just going to bring down your facing to cover up the zipper. You're going to take it to your sewing machine and you're going to sew close to that zipper teeth, but you're not going to obviously sew over the zipper teeth, okay? So just to the side of that zipper teeth. If you're more comfortable, just sew, you know, down the middle. But the more experience you get, just try to sew close to that zipper teeth, okay? And once you do, I want you to trim your corners, okay? So go ahead and do both sides and come back. All right, so back from the sewing machine, and I sewed down the side of the zipper tape. One tip I can tell you in order to get close to the zipper teeth is to use a zipper foot, okay?
And what I did was I just aligned, of course, align the facing to the center back raw edges so that they're flush, right? And then I lined my zipper foot, the edge of it, and then the needle went like that. Hold on, let me see, get a better angle. So I just aligned my edges together, so the edge of the zipper foot to the edge of the fabric like that, and you can see that it's so close to the zipper tape. All right, that's a way in order to get close to those zipper teeth without going over. Now you see where that cross is, right? You want to trim that, but you don't want to actually clip into that, because what? You'll create a hole. And you can take some of the bulk off the side too, as so. Now if you have a point turner, you can use that, but you just want to flip this. All right, you can point out that, and now you have a clean finish to your zipper. Okay, that goes to that top there, and that's what it looks like on the inside. All right, so repeat that for the other side, and then all left to do is to hem your sleeves and to hem your bottom of your peplum. Now what I suggest you do is to finish the raw edge however you're going to do it, so serge or zigzag, and then do a single fold hem. Okay, so you finish the edge, and I want you to just single fold it up. You can use whatever they say in, you know, the directions. I forgot what it said, but I'm going to do a 1/2 inch, okay, because I like to keep a little bit of the length. So I would just fold it up a 1/2 inch, as so. It'll be a single fold just like that. And so you're going to sew close to that edge, to your finished edge. Either you zigzag or serge, you're going to sew close to that edge all the way around. And you're doing the single fold because if you're like me and basically have a lightweight fabric, you're doing a double fold, meaning you fold it like that and then you fold it in on itself. So you basically folding it twice like that. That causes more bulk, and it may affect your drape. So your facing doesn't keep flopping, you know, back and forth. You can tack it down to your shoulder seam. Okay, so just tack it down to your shoulder seam like that. Some people actually stitch in a ditch from the right side inside your shoulder seam, the entire length or most of the length of your facing. You can do that too. So either method, stitch in a ditch from the right side, or just basically tacking. And tacking is just taking the end, the bottom of your facing and attaching it to just the seam allowance. And you're just tacking it with a couple stitches. You can hand stitch it, or you can take it to the sewing machine and go forward 2 stitches, back 2 stitches, forward 2 stitches and back 2 stitches, things like, you know, like that, and that tacks it. And so that's how you will secure so your facing doesn't flop, keep flopping. And once you do that, you'll be all finished. Post your pictures, we'd love to see them. If you made this pattern or intend to, or if you're going to follow along with me, please let me know in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of content. Thanks again for watching, and happy sewing.